last week, and we've marked out the sites where they're going to be put, and we're going to start digging holes next week as soon as we have some equipment made available to us from Crawford.
That's good.
We're going live now.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Rytown Park Commission meeting of October 20th, 2020 via Zoom. Please, Debbie has the Pledge of Allegiance. Debbie has the flag, so let us do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Debbie, roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Falanka,
Here.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Salanitro,
Present.
Commissioner Hurd,
Here.
Commissioner Cohn,
Here.
President Zuckerman.
Here. Thank you. Our first item is approval of the September 15th, 2020 minutes. May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All approved. By the way, for those watching, if I'm looking to what looks like my right, I'm looking at my computer screen for the agenda. Not that I'm looking straight ahead at everybody otherwise. First item of business is a very real pleasure. A proclamation honoring Bill Lawyer, who's been with the park since well before I have. And who's done an admirable job as an assistant director and all kinds of roles, and especially in his role of sustainability. We have a proclamation for Bill, which I have signed. Debbie, could you read it, please? It's a little bit small on my.
It will be my pleasure. Can everybody see it on my screen? On your
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes.
Whereas the Rytown Park Commission recognizes the great accomplishments of Bill Lawyer for his environmental leadership at Rytown Park. And whereas the Rytown Park Commission acknowledges Bill's lifelong commitment to sustainability from a young age, including his work on clean water, sustainable forestry, and forest management, and as a member of the Peace Corps, and his research in land use management and public policy. And whereas the Rytown Park Commission recognizes Bill as an environmental educator at Rytown Country Day School by establishing the Ecology Club on the first ever Earth Day and helping students organize recycling efforts. Bill also spent 10 years as a board member of the Federated Conservationists of Westchester County, serving 2 terms as vice president and 2 terms as president, during which he helped found and plan the FCWC Conservation Cafe workshops and the To Build or Not to Build program. And whereas the Rytown Park Commission acknowledges that Bill serves with distinction on the City of Rye Conservation Commission's Advisory Council, working with the Rye Country Day School Science Department to conduct scientific research on Rytown Park's diverse flora and fauna, and currently serves as the Director of Community Relations at Rytown Park. Bill's latest project is establishing a pollinator garden program at Rytown Park. It is hereby resolved that Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 will be Bill Lawyer Day throughout the town of Rye.
Oh.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. And I think that you could add City of Rye to that too. I'm sure that Josh and Emily would not object.
We
With your permission, I would be delighted to.
So, Bill, congratulations. Thank you for a lifetime of service to the, I'd say, the world of conservation, which with everything going on with the earth today is more important than it ever has been. global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. We've seen the effects throughout the world, especially in the United States, with increased hurricanes, tropical storms, fires in the West, and we know what that can be attributed to. So whatever we as individuals can do to help stem the tide of the worsening climate and worsening environment, we need to do. And Bill, you're a leader in that regard. Personally, I want to thank you for your leadership, and I'm sure that everybody here does as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate the kind words, and I agree. We all have to work together. It's not just not getting better, but it's getting worse in many ways.
Yes, I think most of us recognize that.
And you also meant the various I can never remember how to pronounce it, pandemics of the virus problem. People were predicting that the future ones, if nothing is done, are going to be even worse than what we're in right now. So, you know, you hate to be a gloom and doom person, but it's going to take some people appreciating the problems involved, to actually being willing to do the work that it's going to take to do it. But it can be fun work. I mean, we have a great time going, cleaning the beaches, kind of noting what's going on, keeping track of that. So, you know, we try to make it a positive thing rather than dwelling on the negative.
That's a great segue into our next agenda item.
How about
Our next agenda item is, in fact, a presentation regarding Pollinator Garden at Rye Town Park, and I think this is really exciting. Lori, you want to introduce yourself and tell us?
Yes, thank you,
all about
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and members of the commission. Thank you for having me here tonight to talk about this, and thank you, Bill Lawyer, for coming to me earlier this summer and saying, hey, do you want to get involved in this pollinator project that I've been trying to get started at the park? And I was like, absolutely. So why me? I think I know the answers. Bill can probably answer a little bit better, but I wear a lot of hats. I wrote some of them down so I could remember them, but I am also on the Conservation Commission with serving with Bill. I'm the vice chair. I have also been on the Rye Sustainability Committee, where I was the co-founding chair of the Healthy Yards program. I have actually spoken at one of the conservation cafes. Bill might remember that I did a pollinator presentation for the FCWC as well. And I just did a video for Bedford Now 2030 this past summer that you can check out, that talks about how to have a 4-season garden. And some of that is about bringing pollinators to your yard as well. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why. So I know pollinators, but the other thing that I'm actually known for is I'm a producer. So I get things done. So there's a lot of conversation about this. I know it's been going on for a while. And so my job today was to lay out exactly how I think this could go, try to inspire everybody to do it in a way that we can actually pull this off, even during a global pandemic, even when budgets are tight. So Debbie, can I just share my screen here? Or
Yeah, I believe you can.
I don't know I've ever done this before. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
I see the thingy.
Here we are.
Okay, and now if I go up to slideshow, it worked like that, like normal?
Sure.
Whoa, that's exciting. Okay. All right. And I think the controls are the same. So here we go. Welcoming, I don't want to look at myself while I'm doing this. All right. So welcoming pollinators to Rye Town Park, an environmental and educational initiative. I want to emphasize that this isn't just about bringing the pollinators, it's bringing the people to the park. So, all right, everybody loves pollinators. The great thing about a pollinator project is that it's a warm and fuzzy concept. It's not something that involves you trying to take something away from one constituency in order to give to another. It's a total win-win kind of project. It's for all ages. And like I sort of hinted at, you can spend as much money as you like, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to get an effect. actually.
Lori, can you just do one thing for me?
Absolutely, sir.
Define what a pollinator is.
Oh my God, that's like the softball question I'm supposed to just get, right? So a creature, in this case, we're talking about creatures that transfers the pollen from a plant normally to its body in some way and either pollinates the plant itself or carries that pollen to another plant in order to fertilize the plant. Now that we're really getting technical, and so that the plant can produce fruit.
Right. You're
Typically,
mostly about bees and things like that.
well, this is what I was going to say. So I do all these things, but today I'm not here as an official member of the city of Rye. I'm here as a friend of the bees. And when I'm talking about bees, I mean bees, butterflies, bats, birds, right? All of these creatures, also flies, but nobody wants to talk about flies. All of these creatures work symbiotically so that you can produce, and for example, the tomato plant loves and prefers bees in order to produce better fruit. So this is part of the way the whole natural system is. And without these creatures, in some cases, for example, with our food supply, without these pollinators, certain pieces of our food system will actually collapse. So in this case, I'm not expecting that Ryetown Park will save our agricultural system, for example, but it is an important centerpiece. And I see it again as a teaching tool. So if we show people why pollinators are important, we show them how beautiful a pollinator garden setup is, how easy it is, and we bring children through and all age groups, then hopefully they will pollinate their own yards with these ideas. So it's both things, supporting those insects and birds and so forth, but it's also spreading the word. So Gary, thank you for that. That's actually, I think I'm going to borrow that. It's actually a way for us to pollinate this idea around the community.
Great.
So, all right. So one of the thorniest parts of this, producing this, was to figure out where all the layers of decision making are for you guys. Rye is so complicated, and this park is a little complicated. So I talked to, and thank you so much for explaining all this, Debbie Reisner. I talked to Diana Page. I talked to Pam Jaffe. I talked to Patty Caparelli. Of course, I talked to Bill, and try to figure out, okay, so who has to have buy-in on this in order for us to pull this off? And so that's when we decided we have to go to you guys first, the commission, and I want to understand what it is you would like out of this so that we can better fulfill those objectives. So as I was making these calls, commission on the top, Friends of Ryetown Park and the Ryetown Park Alliance, also really important partners in not just starting this project, but keeping this project going. Schools, same thing. Bill already has some relationships. I know we can foster even more relationships with all of the different schools. We have different environmental efforts already going at the Rye schools and at the private schools, so that we can work hand in hand in both in the educational portion and, possibly actually some of the digging in the dirt stuff too. And speaking of soil, the garden clubs, I know the garden clubs, worked on the project at Edith Reed, but, it would be great for us to identify perhaps one of the main garden groups in Rye to maybe be our ongoing partner. And then, of course, the other stakeholder in this are the users in the park themselves. This is for them as well. So I know this because I had a lawn in my backyard when I bought my house, my present house, and now I have animals and creatures and pollinators. And I know that if you grow things that I don't even know how they know, but eventually they show up, and it's the most exciting thing possible. The thing for me is when I was working on this project this summer, I went over, and you can see some of these pictures I took. I didn't see that many bees. I was a little concerned. I went to Crawford Park around the same time, and the place was just hopping with all kinds of pollinators. So I will have some questions for your the groundskeepers as to why that might be. So we want to look at some of the plants that have been chosen so far, but we can do more. This is a very important migration pathway. Right now, you might be noticing all the birds coming through, the songbirds in particular, filling my backyard these days. You can hear the Canada geese going overhead. And being a coastal community, it's a great, this would be such a lovely home for our creatures. And then again, as I say, the people are important too. So making it beautiful, making it inviting, making it something where people say, what's going on in the garden this month, right? What's going on that's different this year?
So Lori, have you
Yes.
spoken to Vic Federico?
I've heard about him. I haven't actually met him yet. In fact, he's going to be on our call tomorrow with the Town of Rye Sustainability. So I was going to introduce myself then.
Well, Vic,
The guy?
Vic is the person to talk to. He's our Director of Grounds and Facilities at Rye Town Park, and he's also our maintenance supervisor at Crawford Park.
Okay, great.
So
Yeah, because I want to talk
He's
to
the
him.
person.
Okay,
He's the
perfect.
person. And he
Okay,
can
I'll-
tell you what, if any, differences there are between the two parks
Exactly.
in the environment.
Right, exactly. Thank you. That's a great tip. I will do that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I know we've even spoken about getting beekeepers in, talking to.
Yeah, well, what's interesting
At
is
Town Park.
we don't, you don't even need honeybees because that's what they do. Honeybees are an introduced species. I have nothing wrong with honeybees. I love honey. But wild bees, like the one that's in this picture right here, are the ones that you can invite to your garden. And they're actually the ones doing a lot of this buzz pollination on the plants that I'm talking about. And they don't need any special treatment at all, except for giving them the environment that they want to live in. So again, with my producer hat on, talked to a lot of people about it. People have, you get real excited, and my focus always is what is doable, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So I suggested that we look at this in terms of modules or phases, knowing that we have that we're not starting with a parking lot, right? We already do have a bunch of different growing spaces there. And I thought that what we could look at is incorporating those, beefing them up a little bit, adding the signage or whatever other educational components you would want around those. And then as you get more funding, show people what it looks like, then you could add more features from there. So the other thing I want you guys to keep in mind though is, and I know this from doing the gardens at the schools, that you can build it, but you have to maintain it. And what I would like to see is building in a structure from the ground up that includes that maintenance portion and makes it fun, like Bill says, right? That if we have these partners, that it's not going to be a drudgery. It's going to be that, oh, wow, I get to work, or my class gets to work on the garden this year, or my group is doing this specific project. But having those two things in mind from the beginning is important. I think I've established already that it's not just the plants, it's the education component in order to make this a success. I think Mayor Cohn and Emily know this really well too, that you can do the best work you think you're doing, but if you don't explain to people as you're doing it, or people don't notice for whatever reason, that the outreach is super important, and the promotional aspects of it, super important. So you think that, oh my gosh, I've done all this work, it's right there. Isn't it evident? It's not. People actually need multiple layers of communication for them to understand what you're doing sometimes. So Debbie and I have talked about this. You guys call it a garden. I'm going to be whimsical here, but I love to see this as, welcome to Rye Town Pollinator Park, right? And we could do, the signage could incorporate this fun thing. We could have a mascot who's like a wild bee or something. Maybe I can talk Tracy Stora into helping us do some graphics and, have fun with it and see it as not just one little bed that we're building, but all the opportunities around the park where we can incorporate a pollinator theme. It could be starting small and getting a little bigger, growing each year, but thinking of it, because this is true. The whole park is an ecosystem, and the whole ecosystem of the park connects to the ecosystems that it is surrounded by. So all of that is important, but I think that if we're going to go through this trouble and it's not that expensive, the idea of thinking bigger than just one small bed like we have, say, around the flagpole, thinking more as a park-wide educational project. So what you have right now is the other thing I wanted to touch on is in terms of the planting itself, perennials are going to be, they're a little more expensive up front, but you're going to save money in the long term because you're not ripping them out and putting new ones in each time. You've got perennials there now. That's what I would focus on. You've got some sprinklers. Bill and I looked at some of this stuff already. And I mean, I think this is definitely a site we can work with. You've got lots of clover. Thank you. I will applaud Mr. Federico, about that when I see him. Clover is one of the cheapest ways to attract wild bees. So maybe we can incorporate even more clover into the turf. That might be another thing. It's not, you don't have to make a big deal out of it, but it's a way to encourage the bees into your park, and then they discover the other plantings. All right, almost done. So this is not exhaustive, but these are the 4 beds that for sure you have already to deal with, and they all have a lot of sun because these perennial pollinator plants love sun. So I think you all know these, right? Phase 2, I think, and phase 2 doesn't have to happen in year 1. It would be nice, but I can totally see why that would be difficult. But I would love to see one new garden plot, one new something that is, we could call it a teaching garden that maybe incorporates a lot of the different aspects of the pollinator story in it. And the one site, and I just throw this out there, this is what occurred to me when I walked over and did the site walk, was you have plenty of space still at the top of that hill. And it would be like the 3rd garden. So you have your flagpole garden, your sundial garden, and then maybe you'd have this little pollinator, centerpiece garden to consider. But, obviously open to conversation. So again, it's not just doing it, it's show and tell. And I think some of the components, again, you don't have to do this all at once, but I think considering what you need to do and doing what you can, signs are key. I think I would focus definitely on the graphics, building a brand and having the signage along with the launch. You should capture video, consider how you can deal with social media with those things, working with the schools, getting the words out, and docents would be great, right? Working with an organization to actually walk people around the park and show them what's going on. We are in fall 2020, so we are looking at right now, figuring out how much there might be available, and I could build a budget and a design around that for you. Through the winter, working with all these various stakeholders to come up with a plan for the planting season. And you could start in spring. I think that's doable. And maybe you could have this other little new garden in the summer, but if you can't, that's fine too. I think you can pull off something definitely within the year.
Lori, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to see the pollinator by the sea.
It's very tiny. It's in the water. Telephoto. Let me know if you have any questions.
No, thank you, Laura. This is wonderful. I love the idea. Can't speak for anybody else, but I love the idea. I think it's terrific. I'm very
Bill's idea.
into plants and flowers and wildlife. Any comment from the commissioners?
Thank you. Very informative.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who wants to speak about this? Did you have somebody here with you? Is she still here? Where is she? Patty, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I thank you for the presentation, Lori. It's the first time I saw it. I know that you went around the park and you looked at all the gardens, and I'm wondering how many pollinators do you think are already present in the gardens?
I mean, that was what I was really concerned about, because I think I took these pictures I forget what week in August, and I saw some bees, and it was a little early for the butterflies to be coming through. I get a lot of monarchs, but it was a little early for that. But if you can, but no, not just no monarchs, I didn't see any butterflies. So I definitely want to find out why that is. I wonder too, whether there might be some lawn treatments going on around, not in the park, but in the neighborhoods immediately surrounding it's definitely a discussion, but I know we can do better. It's just the right plants and making sure that we're not putting down some pesticides or that there aren't some kind of toxins available that I don't know where they are.
So just to assure you, we do not use pesticides at Rye Town Park.
Yeah, I didn't think so. And I mean, everything, I could see the clover. I mean, I could see it was natural. That's what made me wonder whether it was, there was some other reason that I'm not immediately spotting.
And one more question, like as far as the pollinator plants that are presently there, like what percentage would you say in the gardens are already pollinator plants?
Well, of the 4 gardens that I saw, for example, there's tons of coneflower, right? Okay. But coneflower is only for certain, I mean, the birds like it once it goes to seed, butterflies like it when it's flowering. But what I would love to see is, more a variety, right? Because each different plant, some plants like sunflowers, I think you know this from my video, sunflowers attract everything, but they're annuals and they have a little bit more, you have to work with them a little bit more. I would encourage that, but almost every pollinator uses the sunflower plant. So a mix of annuals like that, perennials, and then just a variety. Variety is definitely the spice of planting life. So,
I think it's an easy fix for that kind of thing, Lori.
Totally.
What you observed was certainly just I planted, I guess, somewhat at random, but I don't think with pollination in mind.
Exactly.
So, and there's plenty of room in most of the beds that you spoke of, where we could add a more diverse cross section of flowering plants that would attract the pollinators that we're looking for. I know there was some elimination of milkweed, which attracts monarchs. Because it's an invasive species, but we're looking to see if we're going to let some of that continue to grow inside the pond area. So that would certainly help with the monarchs.
Right. And there's different, like you could plant butterfly weed.
Right.
I'll send you there's actually a wonderful flyer that the CCAC and Sustainability Committee put together with the help of the garden clubs that have specific native versions of some of these plants. Right. Everyone should have it anyway it's a great flyer, but the other thing, one more thing, and I'm going to let you go. It's not just in the flowering phase. We would like to think about in terms of overwintering, right? Where those wild bees can overwinter. And so it's all the lawn and garden practices that support for, season growth and raising young and things like that. So,
Lori, thank you for the presentation. It was awesome. And I hope that the park is able to put this into practice. I also love the idea of the education piece to it, because so many people visit the park, and to be able to go home and say, oh, I saw these beautiful flowers that are not, that are native and pollinators that we could plant in our garden. It's a great way to help educate and to spread the practice. I am texting with Diana Page, who is unable to comment on the Facebook feed, and she and Jamie Jensen are on the Friends of Rye Town Park. They say that they're eager to make an initial investment in this project. So, assuming that the commissioners are all supportive, which it looks like they are, I think there might be some money. I know we haven't talked numbers, but so
and it's just let me be absolutely clear. I'm doing this as a volunteer, right? So all the money is going to to make this happen. It's not. It's not.
And I know Vic and Gus have done a tremendous job on the park this year, and Vic with the grounds has been super receptive to thoughts and feedback. So thank you, Vic, and hopefully we can all work together and make the park more beautiful and more green.
What are the next steps? That's my curiosity at this point. Where do we go from here? Let's assuming that the commission is in favor of doing this. I saw the word budget. So what is it going to cost? And, what is the plan? I think we need to have a plan first. So,
well, perhaps in the next month, Lori can speak with the Friends and also with the Alliance, and she'll be speaking with the Town Sustainability Committee, and we might pull together something for next month.
That's a great plan.
I can't imagine that it would be a large amount of money, considering, because I love the idea of using our existing beds and then supplementing it later on, maybe in phase two, but maybe even in phase one, finding a new area in the park where we could add to the, but yeah, and the idea that it's called it's Rye-Town Pollinator Park. I love that because we're using already the existing beds, and I think they'll just need some upkeep and some maintenance, some additions, some subtractions, and I think it's already, you know what, Gary, it's already going. Now we just have to make it better.
I know, and we had that discussion. When was our discussion? Oh, this morning. Yeah, this morning.
about beautification. And this is
Vic and Russ and Debbie and I were discussing that very thing.
This is a two-pronged approach.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Okay, great. So I'll get back to you guys.
Lori.
You're welcome.
Right.
Very
Thank
welcome.
you, Lori.
Mm-hmm.
Patty.
We have the management report. Russ has laid out a substantial report about what happened in the past and planning for the future. Do you want to talk about it, Russ, at all, or let it speak for itself?
I think it speaks for itself. I just wanted, whenever anybody gets a chance to read it, if you haven't done so already, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to discuss them with you at any time. I think what we found this year, especially with the permitting process, that there were a number of holes in the net which people figured out how to take advantage of, and I think it resulted in a loss of revenue. Even though our numbers in permits, as far as the dollar value of permits that we sold, permit revenue was way up, but that's for other reasons. And I also said, and I know this is kind of a negative spin on it, but no, the consensus is that we're not really confident that we're going to be able to really improve our communications, Wi-Fi and/or cell phone service in the coming year. So we've come up with the help of Mike Cancel, come up with a more brick and mortar type or a more manual parking enforcement scheme, so that we could probably generate more revenue through parking tickets. But I think with just, and it doesn't cost us anymore. It's just a different way of looking at things, and maybe tweaking the process as far as permitting is concerned, and tightening things up a little bit, and then making a more manual approach to parking enforcement will really help out next year.
That's for future discussion. We're trying to move away from manual, but
when I say manual, a lot of the burden is really on the patrons, because they just have to go back to their car and put they'll have to have a sticker on the windshield, on the parking decal on the side window, and they'd also have to, if they're day users, they have to pay at the kiosk and put the receipt back on the dashboard, and that way we're not reliant on the LPR until the situation gets a lot better. We'll still utilize the LPR, but we wouldn't be as reliant, and we'd be able to do parking enforcement in more remote areas of the park.
All right. All right. Thank you. Any questions of Russ on the management report? Next item is the Rye-Town Park budget, which I think that nobody will object if we pass this item till the next meeting. We haven't had a real budget all year. I think it could wait, because I feel that there are certain members of the commission that want to pass the budget after we resolve the property tax issue. And that is the next one on the agenda. Is there any objection to passing over the budget?
None.
Okay. The next item is a resolution authorizing the commission to issue a tax payment. The genesis of this, obviously, is the tax certiorari case that has been lingering for many years, I think since 2012, based on the 2011 tax year, if I'm not mistaken. It's been gone on so long that even I forget some of the particulars. We have before us a resolution that preserves the right of the commission to challenge the assessments as are pending in tax cert part of Supreme Court right now. And at the same time, paying all sums due and owing to the city of Rye as set forth in the invoices provided to the commission. So that's what's in front of us. There have been a lot of discussion, especially in recent days, among the commissioners. And, you know, I don't think that it is a secret. I think that it could be set forth in a public meeting what the issues are that stand before the parties. One is regarding the exemption or non-exemption of part of the park from taxation, from real estate taxation, and the other is the value of the park parcels. So that is a subject of discussion. The resolution basically provides that we pay the outstanding invoices as they are set forth in the statements sent by the city of Rye, and continue possible litigation, and pay the bills as they come due until such litigation is settled either in a trial or by further negotiation. And that's where we are. I mean, I'm prepared to vote on that. I know that the representatives from the city of Rye would like to have some further discussion on that issue. Is that correct, Josh?
Of course it is, Gary.
Okay. So what is the pleasure of the commissioners as to how they would like to handle this matter?
Yeah.
I think, you know, Paul, Benny, and Fritz. As I say,
I'm happy to vote on it, but if you guys want to have an executive session about it, that's fine also.
I think we need to note that on the last page, it was an accountant's report, I believe. And the guy's name, the accountant is, hold on, I'm getting to it. I'm scrolling on.
Dave Burns.
David Burns. I'm just going to read part of that. He says, the Ryetown Park entity has sufficient cash position as of September 30th to pay the open tax bills totaling $266,000 approximately. Ryetown Park also has adequate cash reserves to cover operational expenses through April 2021. So you're suggesting that we pay in full when the city of Rye has offered a repayment plan over several years at 0% interest, that we pay in full right now, $266,000 that will make the park insolvent as of April 2021. And I'd like to know what your plan is for operating the park this next summer.
The plan is at that time, we'll be getting new revenues in from the 2021 season. What I'm not understanding.
In April, Gary, how are you going to be getting revenues in April when the park isn't even open?
We get permit fees. Look, Emily, what is your position is that we don't pay the bill that the city of Rye has sent us?
We had an executive session with all of the commissioners, where Josh and I were included, where we agreed to a tax settlement number. Then the next step was for the commissioners, or for the city of Rye and the town, to discuss a repayment plan. So that happened. And since then, I've not been involved in any conversations, nor has Josh. The Rye Town commissioners, myself and Josh not included, met privately. I never even knew that a proposal was on the table. and you've rejected something without having my input at all. And I think it's outrageous.
Emily, you're conflicted. Being a
I'm not-
representative from the city of Rye, and especially you and Josh are conflicted.
We're no
There's
more
way-
conflicted than you are, Paul.
how is
You're
that
equally
possible?
conflicted.
How am I conflicted?
You're conflicted because your taxpayers may be on the hook. You represent the park, and your taxpayers, we represent the park and our taxpayers.
No,
Exactly the same
No.
thing, Paul.
no,
We just come at the issue from different sides.
no.
And
No,
thank
the
you for
fact-
deciding that I was conflicted without even giving me an opportunity to weigh in on this. I mean,
Well, Emily,
it's all news to me. It's outrageous.
Emily, I'm a bit surprised that as a representative from the city of Rye on the commission, the city of Rye did not include you in its proposal. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the proposal came from the city of Rye. I have nothing to do with whether they gave it to you or not gave it to you.
You should have given it to me. I'm a commissioner.
Josh had it. He made it.
But we had
You know,
no
let's-
idea
let's
you were
not- wait,
discussing it without us
I don't want to
involved.
look. I'm not going to get into an argument about that.
There's
fact
procedural
of the
issues,
matter-
here,
hold
there's
on. The fact-
substantive issues here, Gary, and I feel like what you guys have done in this instance isn't the correct way to do it. And yes, we deserve to be included in a conversation offline where we can discuss a payment plan so that we don't bankrupt the park in April.
All right.
And
The
then you
problem,
say-
we're not going to bankrupt the park in April, but the fact of the matter is, and I think Josh will readily agree because he said so in an email, the proposal was from the city and did not, and the agreement that we had in the session that you all attended was on a number. It did not include the terms that the city of Rye set forth to the commission, which was, in essence, we'll give you a payout agreement if you forego all right for the next either 7 or 10 years, depending on the length of the agreement, to contest the assessed value or any other aspect of the taxability of. the
Gary,
park.
we said nothing like that. We proposed a pilot thinking that we were helping the park.
Well,
That was why we proposed a pilot, which would have frozen the assessment for 10 years. And if you think that the assessment is not going up over the next 10 years, that's remarkable.
well, you're not a community that's reassessed.
Gary, we offered to have continuing settlement talks on any issues you wish to discuss.
And they rejected without discussion. Is that you didn't come back? You didn't, there was no discussion. It was a just flat out rejection of the proposal.
Well, we're talking about it now, aren't we?
And we shouldn't be talking about a settlement proposal without our attorneys present and outside of executive session. That's where this belongs.
Well,
That's what we have been asking for since late
issues-
last week when we learned about this
Josh,
proposal.
the issues can be public as to what the issues are. And I'll agree with you that if you want to continue settlement discussions, we can discuss that in executive session. And with your attorney present, with your city manager present, with our attorney present. But it's just false when you say you made no such representation. The letter that you sent said that if Ryetown Park grieves or otherwise challenges the taxability or assessed value of the restaurant parcel during the term of the agreement, the settlement and pilot becomes null and void. And the settlement amount outstanding at such time will become due within 30 days. That's what it says. The plain reading of it is, you're saying we'll give you time to pay if you give up all your rights. That's the thing that we are rejecting. Now, if you want to go and discuss the taxability and the assessed value, fine. We can set a special meeting for early next week and go into executive session at that particular time. Is that what you desire? Then we shall do that. but that's what we will discuss.
Of course, that's what we desire, Gary. That's what we've been telling you for days. And for some reason, you prefer to have this show. I'm not sure why it is, but we proceeded in good faith to offer a payment plan. We offered a pilot, really to try to do even better by the park. Our goal is to see that the park does well and that this is not a burden on the park.
Right.
Your perspective on it, I think, is very much the wrong end of the telescope.
No, I obviously disagree with that. You know, the fact of the matter is that if you wanted to continue negotiations, you could have picked up the phone before you sent the email and said, Gary, this is on our mind. This is what we'd like to do. What do you think about that? And you and I could have discussed it. You and I could have
Gary,
discussed
we sent you our proposal on September 18th. We didn't hear back from you until Emily prodded you at the end of last week. You could have picked up the phone. The proposal was from Greg Usry to Debbie Reisner. There was no discussion from you. There was no, this bothers us. There was nothing. Crickets.
You could have picked up the phone before you sent the proposal. It was a bit shocking, but entirely not surprising about the terms of it. But we can have our executive session. We could go into it. But to just circle back on what you said as to the terms that you're giving and how you want to save money for the park, you know, my position has always been that the city of Rye could take the position that, oh, we're not going to charge you tax. It is exempt like the rest of the park. And therefore, you don't have to pay any money. That's a real way to save money for the park.
Gary,
that's a real way to save money.
There is a for-profit business on that parcel. The city of Rye, beginning in 2008 or 9, set a policy of collecting taxes. We do so on the Tiki Bar. We ask the park to transfer the tax obligation to the restaurant repeatedly. Instead, the park decided to keep the obligation and let it snowball. The county did transfer the tax to the Tiki Bar, and the Tiki Bar pays taxes. And that's the way restaurants operate.
Tiki Bar, I don't think is open.
That's customary for restaurants. We asked for, we provide fire services, we provide police services, and the town and the village of Rye tax our Bowman Dam property, and you don't provide any services there. And it's a municipal public safety zone. It's a flood zone project.
We're going to go around a big circle. I'd like to make a motion that this item be adjourned to a special meeting sometime next week, at which time we can go into executive session on
That's fine.
advice of counsel for negotiations. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second.
Third.
All in favor?
Wait.
He was asking for a second.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, further discussion. Josh, you bring up the Bowman Dam property. We discussed this 2.5 years ago, and I made a proposal on that you rejected. We could discuss anything as far as I'm concerned, but the fact of the matter that the bottom line here is that the city is taxing the park. The Rye Town Park is not the same.
The city is taxing the park only because the park chooses to be taxed, as opposed to having the restaurant taxed.
We've had this argument before. The fact is that Rye Town Park is unlike probably any other park in the state of New York. It's owned by 2 separate municipal entities by statute. And it was since the city was created in 1942, there was no tax due. And in fact, the restaurant is not an independent operator as other restaurants are. the park commission controls every aspect of the operation, the days, the hours, the uniforms, the menus, the prices. So it's not exactly the same. And you and I have had this discussion repeatedly. Right now, the only thing that's up for discussion is whether there is a settlement to be had based on the partial taxability of the park and restaurant and the amount of the assessed value of the park and restaurant. And those are the two issues that we're going to discuss. You may wish to come to a different position or maintain the same position with regard to those two issues, and we will discuss them. So a motion was made and seconded. Is there a date that you would like to have that, commissioners?
How's next Wednesday or Tuesday, next Tuesday or Wednesday? Good for everybody?
I'm open both Tuesday and Wednesday. Is everybody else open Tuesday and Wednesday?
No, we have a board meeting on Tuesday.
So let's do it on Wednesday.
I have a meeting on Wednesday.
It doesn't have to be at 7 PM. It could be earlier. Could be at 3, 4, 5, lunchtime.
By the way, that kind of discussion on those particular points is not necessarily related to the payment to the city of Rye. Those discussions can be ongoing discussions, but the payment to the city of Rye is due and owing.
Well,
And I would suggest that if the commission is going to continue to talk about this without the payment being made, then any and all penalties and interest be frozen immediately.
You have an objection to that?
with that, Jeff. I think the only question that confounds the issue is if we do a lump sum payment now, we were hoping to also protect our right to grieve any tax valuation, any evaluation of the property, which is part of that 7 or 10 year stipulation in the Rye.
Yeah, I think
The protection
We
for
can avoid
our
that.
ability.
wait. If we don't pay it now, if we freeze everything in place as it is now, does the city of Rye agree to freeze interest as of today's date?
I, as mayor without the council, can not agree to do anything. We sent you a bill that was as of the end of last year, essentially waiving any rule of penalties up until the time that we sent you that. I don't know if you even realized that, but we did that. We waived everything for the year up
We're
until
going-
the time we sent.
Okay, We're going by the last bill.
So.
We're
But
going by the
don't ask me to waive things that I can't waive.
Fine, you can ask them at your meeting tomorrow night. I don't think it's a lot of interest for a week anyway, depending on what we decide, but what day, Fritz can't make Fritz, what time is your meeting on Wednesday?
My meeting is at 6.
Can we meet at, is there availability at, say, 4 o'clock on Wednesday for everybody? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes.
For me. Emily?
Okay. Josh and Emily?
Not possible for me, but
Not
You should be
possible?
there, Emily. You should be there, Emily.
Yeah.
Can we do, how's Tuesday at 4?
4 is just hard for me because I have no
Oh.
help and I've got the 3 boys to shuttle around to different things.
How's 2? Any better?
Yeah, no, I'm working.
Okay.
Our evening
about-
possibility?
What about Thursday, the 29th? There's nothing happening.
Why don't we do this on email?
Just so we have to have where's the notice requirement for a special meeting? We have,
48 hours, no problem.
oh, we're good? Okay.
I'm good Thursday, the 29th.
I don't know. Okay, I don't want this to go more than another week. You know, as far as I'm concerned, we could do it this week later. But I'd like to put this behind us. in some way, one way or the other. So
Emily, what works for what hour of the day is better for you?
Anytime up until 2:25 and after probably say 6:30, 6.
is there any time in the morning, let's say 10 o'clock, that we can meet? I know that Paul is working. I know that Fritz has nothing to do.
I wish.
Paul, what's a good time for you? Let's work around your schedule first.
On Thursday, I'm free actually anytime after 4.
Okay, so we can do it. We can do it. Emily, is 5 or 5:30 good for you?
No, but I
Is 6
could,
o'clock? Is 6 o'clock good for you?
yes.
All right, 6 o'clock on Thursday. Is that
This Thursday or next Thursday?
The
Next
29th
Thursday.
October.
what?
Has to be next Thursday. I can't
Next
do it this
Thursday,
No.
the 29th, the 29th.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the 22nd. Either day. The 29th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't.
What about Thursday, the 22nd?
Fritz and I have a
Library meeting.
library meeting.
Rise zoning board meeting. Well, then,
What about Friday?
At
What
6
about
o'clock
Friday?
doesn't
what
work
about-
for Fritz, right?
What's that? I'm sorry, Benny.
28th, the 28th at 6 doesn't work for you. You have a meeting.
No, I got a meeting.
What about this Friday?
The 21st? I mean,
23rd?
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 Yes.
What time?
Anytime you guys can do it.
I think Emily is
No,
tied up.
I'm not tied up.
Okay.
I like to do it more, I like to do it earlier rather than later. We could do it
You
like,
do 2, Emily?
I
Do
was just
4.
going to suggest 2.
it was fine with me.
2 o'clock, okay?
On what day are we talking about now?
Friday the 23rd. This
This
Friday.
Friday coming.
This Friday.
It's okay with me.
All right. So it's Friday the 23rd at 2 o'clock, Debbie? Would you
Got
send
it.
that?
Yep.
Amend the notice so that the motion now reads that actually that we're adjourning this matter till Friday the 23rd. And I'm calling a special meeting for Friday the 23rd at 2 p.m. via Zoom.
The notice should also include that the commission may vote to go into executive session to discuss settlement.
It's a special meeting, and the notice will state that the commission will adjourn to executive session to discuss specific litigation.
Good.
Okay? Are we all set?
Okay.
2 p.m.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, that ends this matter for today. And the only item left is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We had a number of public comments with regard to the Bill's honor. Jamie Jensen added her voice to cheer that on. She also said that as a Friends of Rydtown Park member, she's very pleased to hear the presentation on the Pollinator garden. It was visionary, educational, community focused, and environmentally minded. And she says, thank you to Bill, Lori, and Patty. That's all I see on Facebook. Sarah, did you see anything else?
Nope, those are the only comments
Okay.
offered.
Do you know if you have to be logged in to Facebook in order to make comments? Sarah?
Well, you have to have a Facebook account,
Okay.
yes, in order to make comments
Got it.
and interact.
Is there any reason we don't use Zoom or something more accessible to people who would wish to participate? I've certainly heard from Rye residents that they're frustrated by the Facebook interface and needing to write in comments rather than having the ability to be called on.
Well, I haven't gotten those comments. Anybody who wanted to attend the meeting has been able to witness today. We had several people join us. We can certainly look into having members of the public attend.
That would be helpful.
It was, there's always a concern of, Zoom bombing, that we wanted to make sure that we made sure that we were secure. But
Just
any members of the community that wish to attend, please do contact me and we can make arrangements.
Is that who's attending? I'm looking at, I don't know a couple of the names of people that are on the call. I guess Pam Tarlow is here in her capacity as a Rye City Council person or Portchester. I don't know, Vicky Bresnahan.
She's a reporter.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually here as a resident, not in any capacity, but I wanted to hear the Pollinator presentation and see Bill Lawyer get his award. And I did want to hear what happened later on the issue of the park resolution, of the restaurant resolution, tax resolution.
So I guess to follow up on that, like the Friends of Ryetown Park couldn't become part of the call rather than watching Facebook.
Of course they could.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I don't know if they know that's an option because they're watching from Facebook. And Diana Page wasn't able to comment during that section. I'm just saying it so that people know they can reach out to you to get a Zoom access.
They absolutely can. And Diana Page is welcome to contact me.
And Jamie Jensen. I'm just thinking of regulars. Oh, and I did want to ask one other question. Sorry, while we talk about the 2020 budget, which we'll work on next meeting. What do we have a date that we typically tend to review our budget by? I feel like in the years that I've been here, I haven't been able to get my head around when we really work on the budget. So what's, as we're coming up on 2021, what's our plan for looking at the 2021 budget?
Well, I think the first plan is passing the 2020 budget. And the 2020 budget will be very accurate in terms of budget and actuals because it's going to reflect a lot of the actual expenses. I had a conversation, as I mentioned earlier, I meet with the town and park staff weekly to go over different issues. And we happened to discuss going forward the plans for Ryetown Park and what was needed. And you heard part of that because we did in fact discuss planning things such as beautifying the park and who would be responsible for it, such as the Friends of Ryetown Park and and the commission, et cetera. So that planning is already starting. And we're going to have to review a lot of our procedures that we did this year. And I think in that regard, Russ's management report is very useful to see if there should be any modification of the process this year going to next year. I think a lot of the same issues that hit us over the head in May when it was all new are still going to be here next summer. I don't see that there's going to be substantial change. We may get lucky, but I think we have to plan next winter for for the same kind of problem that we had. I'm hoping that'll be greatly reduced. We're all hoping that people will continue to social distance and use face masks. We're hoping and praying that there will be a vaccine. We're hoping and praying that the treatments for those that get COVID will improve. But we have to obviously plan for the worst. Let me just mention one thing. Emily, do you have anything else? Because I wanted to mention one thing.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. We're finally going forward. We're waiting on to go out to bid on the ramps and the path And that is waiting on the county. They have to do NEPA. And that's the Federal Environmental Protection Act. And they've been waiting on some documents, and I'm hoping we're going to get it this week. We can't actually go out to bid because the county is the agency controlling the CDBG funds, of which we have 100,000 for the ramps and 70,000 for the bathhouse. And under the new regulations, we can't start until we actually have NEPA approval. We can't enter into a contract until we have NEPA approval. So we're waiting on that, and we're hoping it comes any day, literally any day. I think, Benny, you're fairly familiar with that stuff from your public works career.
Yep.
So, all right. So I just wanted to bring
To adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Gotta move on.
All in favor?
Friday afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Okay. Night, Fritz. Night, Josh.
Good night.
Good night. Night, Emily. Night, Benny.